Hi again, boys and girls. I'm going to keep reading chapter 8 and 9 today. The end of chapter 7, their dad called and said the mom hung up the phone with a slam and used the word idiot. So sounds like it maybe didn't go that well. Seems like if you've noticed, the dogs and cat are kind of talking, and it's like Eleanor understands them, the young girl. It even sounded like the grandma kind of was understanding what they were thinking or saying. Chapter 8. Eleanor didn't cry again after that one time. It wasn't that I had said anything to make her feel better. It wasn't that Mama comforted her. Mama hadn't seen Eleanor cry, and Mama was like me. If you don't talk about it, maybe it isn't there. Most of all, I think Eleanor didn't have any tears left in her. For Eleanor, summer was tea parties under the maple tree with her friend Mavis. The dogs were invited. They ate bits of toast and jam, raisins that got stuck in their teeth, and dried apricots that mystified them. Eleanor and Mavis knighted Lula. They made a crown with a rubber band chin strap for her. Lula sat for hours with the crown, looking out the windows of the house. Other times she walked around the house with it dangling around her neck like an oversized necklace. Lula didn't care. Max and I played soccer in the park, running morning until evening, when we'd come home and drop. Neil and Biddy would lick the sweat off our faces if Mama didn't see, and we would shriek with laughter on the floor. Summer without Papa was easier somehow, but there was always that phone, the threat that Papa would call again. Or was it the fear he wouldn't? One thing I knew, if he wasn't here, he couldn't leave again. One day Mama set the breakfast table again, plates, a tablecloth, flowers, and cloth napkins. Another talk, announced Mama. Sit down and drink your juice. I have some news. This is kind of private news, just for us, okay? Bryn. She's talking. Lula. Yes. Eleanor looked at Lula, then Mama. Mama sat down. She picked up one of the cloth napkins and twisted it in her hands. The animals stopped their restlessness. There was silence in the room. Lula sat on the washing machine, her crown hanging around her neck. Well, said Mama, here it is, the news. She took a deep breath. I'm going. She stopped. She looked at Eleanor with an expression of fear. Actually, it's good news. Mama said it with her high, fake, cheerful voice. Then she stopped, and that cheerfulness fell from her face. She looked very serious. The truth is, she began. Bryn. Go ahead, say it. I'm going to have a baby. That is, we're going to have a baby. More silence. The silence grew, so I decided to say something. Oh, well, I said. Okay, said Eleanor. Grace. Say something nice, please. Eleanor frowned at Grace. That's nice, she said, drinking her juice. Will it be a brother or a sister? Mama sighed. Haven't found out yet, said Mama. She looked at me then. Do you have any questions? Yes, I said, surprising Mama. Does Papa know? Mama sighed. Bryn. I was thinking that very thing. No, William, not yet. Why are you telling us? I asked. My voice sounded angry. I could see tears at the corner of Mama's eyes. I'm sorry, I said quickly. That's all right. You're right, Will. I was tired of being the grown-up in the house, but I didn't tell her that. Well, I said, that's all, I guess. I got up to leave. I love you. Mama's voice sounded far away and little. I love you too, I said. Me too, said Eleanor. We left Mama sitting in the kitchen. I don't want a brother or a sister, whispered Eleanor. I grinned. Of course you don't. You're the princess. But don't worry. You can dress him or her, push him or her around in a baby carriage and be the boss. Yes, said Eleanor, grinning, suddenly happy. Grace. The alpha. Definitely the alpha. Eleanor reached out to touch my hand, but held it instead. She held it for a long time. It was nighttime. Neo and Biddy were in my bed. Lula was nowhere to be seen. She'd come later. Mama appeared in my bedroom. Good night, William, she said. Mama? Yes? I took a deep breath so I could say what I wanted to say in one breath. I don't think it's fair for you not to tell Papa about the baby. Neo stirred next to me. Biddy sat up. It was quiet for a moment. I don't know how to say it, I began, and then it happened. I heard. Neo, I don't think will help him to be the father he can be. I stared at Neo. Then I began to talk, almost without thinking about it. I think that it doesn't help him to be the father he can be, I said. Mama stood still for a moment. You're right, Mama said flatly. Mama didn't kiss me good night. She disappeared the way that Grace or Bryn would appear and disappear at my bedside. Neo sat on the bed looking at me with those eyes. I reached over and stroked his head. I heard you, I whispered. Neo, you did? Why now? Neo, you were brave. Brave. Gran had said that word once. I felt goosebumps come along my arms. I have to do something, I said. I got up and walked into Eleanor's bedroom. I knelt down by her bed. Grace lifted her head to look at me. Eleanor, I whispered. What? She whispered back. I heard Neo. She smiled. I could see it in the light from the window. I knew you would, she said sleepily. The magic is real, I said. Yes, said Eleanor. I stood up and looked down at Eleanor, her eyes closed. Night, I said. Night, whispered Eleanor. Grace. Good night. Chapter 9. In the morning when I woke up, Neo was looking at me. Biddy's eyes were still closed. So Eleanor heard you from the beginning? I asked Neo. I couldn't believe I was asking Neo this question. Neo, yes. Biddy, she's 4. 4-year-olds always hear. Why is that? I asked. Biddy, I don't know. I'm just a dog. Biddy said that to make me smile. I did. Biddy, I hope your grandma makes me a red coat. I'll tell her. And then I remembered. You can tell her yourself, Biddy, I said, laughing. A week later, we had a half-birthday for Eleanor. She loved half-birthdays, almost more than full birthdays. Gran and Grandfather came, and Marvelous, and Mavis, and Max. All the M's, Mama called them. There were balloons and half a birthday cake with candles. No, Papa. He had been gone for 2 months now. Gran had knitted Eleanor a purple cape that reached the floor, and Marvelous brought her a crown with jewels. Grace. Beautiful. Thank you, said Gran, and I have a gift for you, Grace. Gran took out a blue coat and put it on Grace. Grace walked proudly around the room. She looked at herself in the full-length mirror in the dining room. Then she went to Gran and put her head in Gran's lap. Ah, you like it? She took some bright red yarn and needles out of her knitting bag. This is for you, Biddy. I'll finish it soon. Biddy stared at Gran. Speechless, Biddy? I whispered. Eleanor heard me and laughed. And then the front door opened. The dogs, every one of them, sat up. Bryn, for the first time since the shelter, curled her lip and showed her teeth. We turned. It was Papa. Papa, said Eleanor. No, I said loudly. Papa looked at me, but he didn't say anything. I could feel my face get hot. There was a big silence except for Bryn's low growl. Bryn, hush, warned Mama. Then, as if a movie had stopped for a moment and started up again, Eleanor ran to Papa. Papa picked her up and whirled her around. Eleanor, in Papa's arms, waved her wand. The dogs lay down, all except Bryn, who moved closer to Mama. Wow, Max spoke as softly as Mama had. Hello, Mr. Watson. Hello, Max, said Papa. I knew you'd come, said Eleanor, her arms around Papa's neck. Hello, Janie, said Papa. Thank you for the phone call. Thank William, said Mama. I thank you, William, said Papa. I didn't answer. I knew you'd come, repeated Eleanor. The guests had gone home, the dishes washed, the living room cleaned. Balloons hung near the ceiling, moving slowly around the room like ghosts. Eleanor had gone to bed long ago. Mama stood in the kitchen doorway, leaning against the wall. Papa sat on the couch facing the 4 dogs, who watched him closely. I never had a dog, said Papa softly. He looked up at Mama and then back at the dogs. Dogs. So many dogs. They don't have anything to do with you, said Mama, her voice strong. They have everything to do with us. Mama sounded different somehow. She sounded more like the day she'd packed Eleanor and me into the car and driven off to get 4 dogs and a cat. I backed away and went to my room. No dogs followed me. I knew what they were doing. Papa knew what they were doing. I lay down on the bed without turning on the light. The dogs were there to protect Mama. I slept, and it was only much later, no moon, that I reached out to touch the soft, familiar fur of Neo.